These are just random rants from a random dude on the internet and should be treated as such. Okay, looks like the next section is device discipline. Pretty much make sure that nobody is going to be able to grab your device, right? Keep physical control over it. Don't leave it unlocked. Don't just hand it to people if they need to do something. If someone says, hey, can I borrow your phone? Don't let them borrow it. And use a strong passcode or pattern if you are going to use the passcode, because you don't want it to be something that is easily recognizable from afar. There's a case of a guy in Minnesota who apparently stole $300,000 from people when they left their phone unlocked, or from being able to observe their easy pattern from afar. Combine this with good biometric security. Fingerprints are easy to recreate and easy to fool. I personally like using the face recognition because it's actually not doing facial recognition in the traditional sense. It's actually using infrared dots projected onto your face to form a unique signature that is really only kept on your device, which is why you have to enroll every single device, at least when it comes to Apple, with your face. And you can't just have that same face cross a bunch of devices. You have to register it per device, so the signature resides on the device as far as I know. Set your screen to automatically lock. Don't allow it to stay there for 5 minutes. I know it might be annoying to have that 30-second timer, but it's much better to have your screen automatically locked than to leave it hanging out there. Don't download apps you don't need. And if you do download an app and you need it, make sure that you only give it access to what you want it to use. Don't give it access to your microphone just because it asks for access to the microphone. Location services, relevant locations, whatever it's asking you for, don't give it access unless you absolutely need it. In the settings menu, there's a way to figure out what it has access to. The app itself, sometimes even before downloading it, it'll tell you what it's going to do with the data and what data it is going to take. Disable sensors unless you're actively using them. You don't need to have your location, your Bluetooth, and your Wi-Fi on if you're not actively using it. Unless you are connected to your Bluetooth device, keep your Bluetooth off. And understand the difference between fully off, soft off, and on. Apple was a little sneaky recently where they changed their icons. Their icons used to look like this, but now their icons look like this. Remember, when you simply disconnect as opposed to doing a complete hard off, it is still listening and it still has access to that sensor for some reason or another. So make sure that you disable anything that you're not using. Location services should only be on when you need someone to know your location. Let's say if your kid is out at practice, sure, they should have their location on the whole time. You should have them in, if you're using the Apple ecosystem, in the Find My app, and you should be able to see that little dot on them. If not, if you're navigating from point A to point B, sure, have that location on, but unless you're absolutely needing it, turn everything off. Avoid charging in public ports. Half the time, nobody really maintains those. And if I wanted to, I could probably change the little jack and use an OMG cable like this thing and put malware on your phone or just make it do weird things. Understanding the difference between upgrading and updating is very important. An upgrade is giving you an entirely new operating system, introducing new vulnerabilities, unknown vulnerabilities. An update is really just fixing things that they've already found. I like waiting to upgrade until the operating system is in its second iteration. For example, if you see here, this is the third iteration of iOS 17. This is the first iteration of iOS 18. I would rather be on the third iteration of 17. Wait until that second number is at least a number 2 or beyond before upgrading, in my opinion, because when you're upgrading, I don't think they've worked out the bugs quite yet, and you're a little bit of a guinea pig, especially if you're an early adopter. So wait a little bit. Find any new convenience features. For example, in the Apple ecosystem, it would be Apple's health monitoring, the journal, or even Apple Intelligence. Opt out of that. Siri is also another convenience feature. Opt out of that. And very importantly, power cycle your device once a day. Power cycling will give you a little bit of a heads up in case you've been infected by sophisticated malware. If you power it up and it's not in a trusted state, your operating system might actually flag it and say, you need to connect this phone to a computer before I'm going to boot properly. If you get that, call me, there's a problem. Consider using lockdown mode, which is available on various phones. Lockdown mode is going to reduce some of your features. For example, in the Apple ecosystem, lockdown mode makes it so that you don't have use of shared albums. Your websites render a little differently because the cool fonts actually won't show up. And when it comes to FaceTime calls, you can't receive an inbound FaceTime call unless you have established a trusted connection by previously calling them in your contacts. And pretty much just don't download anything you don't need.